Good evening. I'm up a little bit early so I can try and get everything started together. So if you're just joining us, hang out and welcome. And um, I need the wine too.
Where's the wine?
I'll have to get it.
I just left that on low, okay?
Okay, thank you. So it says I'm live right now. Hi, Greer. Can you see me just fine?
Let me see. Yeah, you're live.
All right. Well, I'm early, but it's not letting me see. Okay, here we go. There
You
I
have
am.
3 people too.
Oh, I have 3 people. All right. Welcome, everyone.
Greer and Mary.
Mary, yeah.
And me.
Okay. Great. Hi, guys. Yes, you can see me. Great.
So how do you want me to share it?
There should be a link.
Oh, so share and then just tag you?
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. So Greer, I actually am going to start right off. I can't see if anyone else is there or not, but I see that you are here. And so I have something for you. And I didn't leave to go that far. Okay, so this is the Corvin. So anyone joining us, I'm just showing Greer how to use the new Corvin, and anybody else who wants to know how to use the Corvin screw top. So pretend this is a screw cap I just took off. You're going to put the new one on, the Corvin top, as soon as you open it. So it does get a little oxygenated, but not too badly. And then
Oh, cool.
you put it right on top.
Quality.
I'm sorry, what? Oh. And so welcome, Keith, to the conversation. And then you use this screw top just as if it was a cork inside the bottle. Okay, so that's for those of you who are interested in the Corvin and the new screw caps. All right, so it's 7 o'clock, and people should just be hopping on now. Hi, Lori, welcome. And I'm hoping that you guys will be voracious commenters this evening, but you know, if you're not feeling it, then you're not feeling it. And so hi, I see that some folks are joining from Instagram. Thank you for joining.
Oh.
Yep. So we're going to wait just a couple minutes for some folks to join. And as we do, I thought that I would share with you, I was just demonstrating the Corvin, which if you remind me at the end, I'll talk again about it. But if you buy it on artisanwinetasting.com, I'll be putting up a coupon from tonight, 10% off. So I think it's like $1.99, and it'll be 10% off of that. So that's a good $20 off for this evening. And the coupon code will be Verde. Okay, so if you would like to purchase who's that?
Mark Schindelman says hi.
Oh, hi, Mark. Hi, Chucky. Hi, Leslie. Welcome. Hi, Marla. Cheers. All right, the troops are all here. Okay, so I'm just holding up the Corvin because I was talking about it. So there will be a coupon from tonight, Vino Verde. I'll probably put it up right after the tasting, but if you want to order a Corvin, what does the Corvin do? The corks, when the cork is sitting in the wine, you sit the Corvin right on top of it, push this down, and it sticks a needle through the cork. And then when you press the button, it adds gas to preserve the wine and pours, as you tip it, pours out into your glass so that you can preserve your wine but still drink it. Okay, so cheers to everyone who is joining us. Hi, Leanne, cheers. Curious if our neighbor has joined you this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and pour my Vino Verde. Oh, actually, it's not a Vino Verde. I'm going to pour my white wine, which is an Albarinho from Portugal. So hopefully you will all go ahead and pour yours if you haven't already. Here, Keith. All right, and cheers. All right, any ideas for the drinking game of the evening? So those of you who are new, we always pick a drinking word of the evening so that whenever I say it or someone puts it in comments, you have to take a sip of your wine. And we differentiate between, for those of you who are new, we differentiate between drinking and tasting. So we drink when we do a cheers and just drink, and we taste, and we think about it. That's what tasting is for thinking about it, okay? And also we'll be sharing any comments that you want to share in the comments section. I'm not sure if I'll see all the comments in Instagram. I haven't been seeing them, but I agree, Ren. Thank God it's Friday. So cheers to that, definitely. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. It's 7:03, so we're gonna hop right in. All right, so those of you who are new, there are a couple of you who are new. What we do is I talk about wine and people ask questions and people comment, and not just talking about the wine, but we also taste together so that people learn, or I help you guys learn what taste qualities you're picking out, so that when you go to a wine tasting somewhere else, you have the opportunity to use words like the professionals use. And one thing that hi TC, you are definitely good at that. Welcome. One of the things that I don't talk often about, but people have started to comment on, I recently started to sell wine through my business. It's all hand selected, curated, and you certainly don't need to have this wine, my wine, when we taste, because it's all about just connecting. That's what I like to use wine for. And so it's all about connecting. So you can drink whatever you want when we taste, when you join us. And if you happen to have the same wine, it's easier because you learn more. And if you happen to have the same exact wine because you've ordered the tasting set on artisanwinetasting.com, you'll engage at in a different level. So all of the wines are hand selected. Most of them are hand harvested. Most of them are natural or organic or biodynamic. They're all handcrafted and well made. And I've had some recent comments about some of the surprises that were in my tasting pack. And one of the things is I'm always tasting and looking for good wines. And every time I taste a wine, I think, can we learn from that? Okay, and so you're going to see a difference tonight in tasting our Albarinho. Some of you are going to have Alvarinho from, yes, TC, you can still, Tina asked, even a Bud Light seltzer. Absolutely, we can put some words around that, Tina, although I don't think I've ever had it, but I can guess how it tastes. I don't know where their vodka source is and how natural, but we can definitely put tasting words on it. I don't sell it, so it's not as, what is that?
Seasoned by Allagash.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and one of us, so there's another beer drinker, I think, in the crowd, which is fine. Thanks for joining us.
Oh.
So, all right. So what we do is we're going to talk a little bit about it. Marla's already into her Vino Verde. It's her new favorite. So here's the story. So we taste together. Good evening, Christine. And we use our proper words and we learn to taste. And I've noticed, for those of you who have been joining us week after week, hi Andy, welcome. Those of you who have been joining us week after week, you're starting to have conversations with me. I'll get texts and emails and phone calls, and people will say, well, isn't Vino Verde this? And people are starting to engage at a higher level with the wine and with me. And that's super, that's my favorite. That's fantastic. So those of you who are just joining us today for the first time, please don't feel uncomfortable. It's taken weeks, and part of my business is really to help people feel comfortable, a comfort level around wine, which can often be a very pretentious thing, but not with us. Okay, with us, any question is a good question, And so on Facebook, keep in mind that I can't see friends unless you greet them. So if you are connected with me directly and one of your friends joins in that I am not connected with, please feel free to greet them. And that way I can see that they're here. Hi, Chris Westberg. And welcome to all of my top fans and all of my fans and friends. So tonight we're tasting Alvarinho or Albarinho. It's Alvarinho from Portugal and Albarinho with a B from Spain. Okay, and so when it's from Portugal, it's typically in the Minho region, the Vinho Verde appellation, and of course I'm going to show you pictures. And Albarinho, which is typically from Rias Biaxas, which my pronunciation, I've heard it said so many times, and they say it really fast, so I'll try it. Rias Biaxas, okay, region in Spain. So Alvarinho is known for being a great summer evening wine, light and crisp, citrus, a bit of minerality, and some salinity with it. So it makes it actually a really good food wine, and it has a little, the salinity at the end, that salt note, makes it really, really good with food. Okay, and it's named for white albar or whitish alvar. Both of those mean white, and so that's that's where the name comes from, and I've seen it some places meaning white of the Rhine. They used to tie it to Riesling, but I couldn't find any genetic tests that were done in the last 10 years that actually did tie it to Riesling. So the cool thing about it, and the reason that I picked Alvarinho, is it's a really good price point. It's an elegant wine, and because of the minerality and the way that winemakers are making it now, it's complex. So you can have it as an appetizer, you can have it as an evening porch sipper or a pool party wine, but it also will go really well with food because of the minerality and because of the acid. Okay, all right. So we need a drinking word. So if you guys want to go ahead and comment in, that would be great. So one of the things about Alvarinho is that it has the appeal, and I just mentioned that it's doing really, really well, or people are really enjoying it, but people equate it in Europe to Sauvignon Blanc, a Pinot Grigio, or a Viognier. And as Leslie says, yeah, it's easy to drink because of its lightness. And I'm glad, Leslie, thank you for calling that out. She says it's a good choice for this evening. And I was, it's tough to predict the weather when I pick them, but for a hot day like today, it's super refreshing. Okay, and Andy, Greer, and Marla are having a conversation on the side. I think they're trying to decide how to become a top fan, and we haven't cracked the code. Okay, we talked about it a little bit last week, but Marla has liked everything, shared everything, and she's still not a top fan. What, Keith?
I'm not a top fan.
You're not? Oh, Marla, I hope that makes you feel better. My husband is not a top fan either. Okay, all right, good to know. All right, and the thing that really distinguishes it from all of the other wines is you really can taste a sense of place in the wine. Great wine, great price point. It's grown mostly in Spain. Second is Portugal. After that, California, Central Coast, but now they're growing it in Alexander Valley and Napa, and now in Oregon and Washington too. Not in huge numbers, and those are going to be juicier and less minerally. And Lisa says refreshing. I don't know. Should top fan be the? I think top fan is the drinking word of the evening. Okay, so top fan. Cheers. Every time you say top fan, you drink. TC, you're all top fans. That's right. Cheers. All right. It's also grown in Uruguay. You're going to start to see more and more Uruguayan wines. It's an up and coming. It's the #4 producer in South America, and they're making wonderful Alvarinho, and they're also making great Tannat, which is a red wine, similar to Malbec, but it was just fantastic. So you'll start to see that as well. Also, they're making it in Australia, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. In Australia, though, there was a little bit. Tina is now chugging her seltzer. She continues to comment on our drinking word of the evening to see if she can make me fall off the chair. The funny thing about Australia is this. Australia thought they were making Alvarinho, and in 2008, there was a big debate, and they tested it, and it turned out that it was the French varietal Sauvignon, Savagnin. It's not Sauvignon. I'm going to put it on the comments. Savagnin for Instagram folks. Okay, so it's a different wine. So Australian Albarinho likely is not Alvarinho, just so you know. All right, so should be served 50 to 53 degrees and in a narrow glass. So I pulled out, I've been drinking in my fancy pretty glasses, but tonight I really wanted to show you this is a traditional white wine glass. It's narrow and which brings the aromatics right up to your olfactory senses. All right, so let's take a look. Oh, good, Laura, yours is very refreshing. Okay, I'm going to do the color and I'm going to get back to your comment, Lori. But anybody who's just joining us, go ahead and please grab a glass, pull up a chair and join us. Feel free to comment. We are a hearty, fun crowd. All right, what colors are you seeing? What color? What would you call it? Okay. Marla says, join the club. All right, I'm going to call this. I'll give it one more minute for you guys to pick out the color, either in yours or in mine. Those of you drinking beer or seltzer, I don't want to know the colors, but you can look at mine. You can look at mine and see. All right, no takers on the comments in time because, of course, there's a delay. So I would call this a straw yellow or a pale yellow. It's very yellow. It even has a little bit of gold to it. And some of you might be thinking I'm just saying yellow, but these are the terms they use, okay, that professionals use. Marla's is very light straw yellow, almost like a white corn. That's an interesting choice. Yeah. And Lisa Gilbert says pale yellow. Yep. And TC says top fan. And Leslie says pale gold. So those of you, you're all correct. And Leslie, I would agree with you. Hi, Chris Westberg, top fan. I would agree with you. It's definitely a yellow with some straw, and it's pale, but it has a little bit of golden note to it. This one, actually, and you can look at yours and see, do they have flecks of gold? And it's hard for me to do this when I'm holding it up to you guys, but it's pretty light on the edges. I don't see green on the edges, but if you do see green on the edges, even flecks of green, that tells you that the grape is a little bit young. The one that I'm drinking is not, but some of you may have, like Lori, where yours is fizzy, I think Marla, yours too, you may have a tinge of green there, okay? So so we're gonna sniff, and we do this every week, and I'm gonna change it up a little. So those of you who are already ahead of us, come back, all right? Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna sniff without swirling. You're gonna go ahead and sniff. And tell me what you smell. Okay, again, 10-second delay, and many of you in your PJs might not feel like, and nothing wrong with PJs, might not feel like commenting, but sniff and tell me what you smell. Okay, I have a feeling that Tina, with her seltzer, probably smells lime. Keith gets some butter. Interesting. Okay, I'm getting some citrus and a little bit of salt, a little bit of salinity. Now I'm going to change up how we smell. Lisa's getting a little bit of apple, and I would call that green apple. Okay, Marla gets lemon, citrus, stones, water, minerals. Marla's is more aromatic than the tasting pack one, because if she's getting all of that, it's all in there. That is all characteristic of Alvarinho. She's a top fan. Cheers. Tina smells a top fan. All right. So I had you smell. Now I'm going to have you do something I've never asked you to do before. Okay? All right. Nice tea. Let us know when you're switched to Chardonnay. And Andy gets floral on his. Andy, do you have an Alvarinho, or are you just working on being a top fan? All right. So when you smell, and Lori has green apple. Yeah. So when you smell, normally we smell and we swirl, but we're not going to do that this time. This time what I'm going to have you do is breathe in through your mouth and your nose at the same time. Breathing in the aromatics, not while drinking. Okay, it's kind of hard to do, but mouth, nose. Okay, I've never done that before. I saw it in a tasting. I do pick up a piece, like a kind of a sense of minerality. Anybody else? You can laugh as hard as you want, TC. Top fan, yeah, Andy says. And so you know, if you have to try it. If it doesn't work, that's fine. But it doesn't look like anybody picked anything up breathing with your mouth as well. Now, the science to that, really, the mouth is connected to your olfactory bulbs. So you have an area that's going in at the top, the roof of your mouth, that also connects with your nose. So you're getting a different connection. And Keith says top notch. Lisa says, I think I smell the salinity. What is salinity? What is that?
Salt.
Salt. It's salt. And one of the coolest things about Alvarinho is that it's known for that salinity because most of them are made by the ocean, and they pick up that sea salt, and that makes them go so much better with food. And it complements the acid. They're known for the acid, the minerality, and so it all makes it good food wine. Cheers to Chris's mom. She likes it. He's visiting her. I'm so glad that he brought it and shared with her. And Marla says, yeah, all from the ocean, the salinity. Okay. It's in the soil and it's in the air and the dense fog that comes in the areas where Alvarinho is grown. All right. So now we're going to swirl it a little, see if we pick anything else up. Anyone? Okay. I'm getting a little bit more of the minerality. There's almost like a funk to it on mine, and that has to do with the aging and the winemaking. And let's see, what's a better way to describe it? It smells almost like a fog. And Leanne got the water. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that would make sense, right? The ocean, the salt. Yep, absolutely. All right, now we're going to taste it. Remember, we do one taste and then a second. Wow, this is good. This is good. And we did drink for Tina's comment. I'm not going to repeat it. So what do you get? Okay, you get your fruit up front. What fruit do you get? I'm going to wait for you guys. Keith, what fruit do you get?
I get the apple too. I get the light grape.
Yeah.
Pear.
Notice my husband says light grape, and I appreciate you putting yourself out there because it's not easy. The stone fruit is what he's getting, the pear, that stone fruit, nectarine, apricot. And that grape, I think that Keith, and I'm guessing, but you can tell me, I think that grape taste that you're getting it's almost like a lime rind. You get a little bit of orange citrus rind in there. Okay. Marla gets tart fruit, green apple, a bit of orange. Yep. Hits you right in the jaw. Interesting. Also minerals. And Leslie gets that pear. Okay. So Marla, thank you for calling all of that out because that's so interesting. I'm tasting one. You have a different one. Marla's is, like a kind of a mid-range Vinho Verde, which I'm going to talk about what that means, but it's a blend from the area of Vinho Verde in Portugal. And what she's feeling in her jaw area, that's the acid. There's additional acid. These grapes and this soil pick up acid, and it's also the minerality. And again, that's what makes it a really good food wine. So that fruit forward, that fresh taste, and then that minerality and acid, that's what tells you. And then it lasts, at least mine does. I don't know if yours does, Marla, but mine lasts on the palate. And it makes me want to eat something with it. And I actually have some shrimp that I will be trying with it. So Leslie gets pear, Andy gets breadfruit. I don't know what breadfruit is. I know it's something, but I don't know what it is, unless it's a combination of bread and fruit. So please tell us about that. Mary gets green apple, yeah. So Chris, you're getting pomegranate, salinity, and Andy Kaufman is not a top fan. Cheers. Interesting. So I don't know, the pomegranate, Chris, I am guessing is more of the rind because pomegranate you typically will get in a red wine, but not a white. And Marla is saying she ate white grapes with it and got nectarine. So what happens is when you eat grapes with it, that's additional acidity. And so it's going to change the flavor. And so it's fascinating to me because some grapes that if you eat with while you're drinking wine, it just blocks the taste or completely interferes with the taste. And so the fact that she's pulling out nectarine, that to me says, again, good food wine. So it's as simple and lovely and elegant as it is on the palate. it also goes with food. Now, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't, like when I do a pairing, I usually would not use grapes, but it's always good to have some different samples to try things and to learn. And so, Tino, tell me what breadfruit is. Nobody told me what it was. Cheers to that. And Marla says, lasts a long time in the palate, particularly when we ate mozzarella cheese with it and other foods. And she's got a more basic one. Okay, so I think I've demonstrated. Oh, and Mary's not seeing Chris's comments. I don't know why. But next time Chris comments, I'll like it. Maybe that will help. And I know on Instagram you can't see all the comments, and that's part of the fun, and you're a little delayed. So if you want to jump over to Facebook, that's great, or join in, but feel free to comment as well. Lisa says we're in sync. She got herself a shrimp cocktail. But the cocktail sauce is blowing it away in a good way or a bad way. Yes, TC, please Google it and let us know. Oh, it looks like Andy Googled breadfruit. Bland, less juicy fruit, served deep fried.
You sure that's Google? You just didn't know
it? That could be Google. So that's very interesting. And I could see tropical fruit in this wine, fried like plantain. That could be good. All right. So we've kind of moved, so we tasted, we smelled, we looked. This one, the one that I'm drinking, is fruit up front, balanced acid, some lime, some saltiness, mineral, orange zest, long finish on this one, full round palate from stirring on the leaves, which I'm going to explain to you, and peach, lemon, passion fruit, lychee, orange zest, jasmine, orange blossom, and lemon balm. So I'm just throwing these words at you, but these are all comments and reviews for people who have been drinking the wine that I'm drinking, have shared. And you can take those and say, wait a minute, do I have that? Am I getting that? And so tonight I'm going to tell you about the wine that I'm drinking, and it's the wine in the tasting pack. So several of you are also drinking it. Okay. It's an Alvarinho blend. So that's a little bit of the difference. And Lori, I promise I'm going to go back to the zip that you mentioned, because that's really important in our conversation tonight. So it's an Alvarinho blend from the Vinho Verde region in Portugal. So Portugal in general hasn't been known for good wines, hasn't been known for making fantastic wines. But in the last 30 years, they've been getting better and putting in more, investing more. The European Union has been investing in roads and their infrastructure, and they're trying to elevate their wines. And so now they are. They've reached that point. And so Vinho Verde is known for less expensive wines, that region, red, sparkling, and white. And the white that they're known for is labeled Vinho Verde. That's not exactly what I'm drinking. What I am drinking tonight is this one. It's Ruggiero. And it's Quinta do Ruggiero. And it's a blend of the two grapes, Trajadura, as you can see, and Alvarinho. It's backwards on Instagram. Okay, and this is the 2018. The 2019 has already won incredible awards. And so the story with it is, why isn't it a Vinho Verde? Even though it's from the Vinho Verde area, it's because it's that blend. So the winemaker himself is, he grew wines in his backyard, grew vines in his backyard. And then about 7 years ago, he started making some serious wines. He was just named Producer of the Year in Portugal, and it's one of the top boutiques in Vinho Verde. It's a small estate, but it's near larger commercial estates. And this is going to be important after. Okay. There are two regions, Moncau and Melgaço. Okay, my pronunciation is awful. But on the back of my wine, you can see, or of your wine, if you have this, this wine is made from the Melgaço region in Vinho Verde. And so there are two regions that are known for their Alvarinho and their prime real estate. So if you make Alvarinho from there, you can name it Vinho Alvarinho, but this winemaker couldn't name it that because he mixed it with the Trajadura. Okay, so because it's a blend, that's another white grape, because it's a blend, it couldn't be called a Vinho Verde. So I'll get to what that is in a minute. All right, so he just pretty much, he's growing in his backyard. And a lot of the winemakers in Portugal have these small plots of land that are their backyard. And Alvarinho grows up tall. They do that, they grow it up on pergolas because the region is really moist and wet. Yes, Christine, it's moist. And so they do that to get the vines off the ground so that the moisture from the fog and the ocean don't sit below and cause mildew on the grapes themselves. Oftentimes you'll see winemakers standing up on boxes to reach the vines. Okay, so this is a picture, and I'll show it to Instagram after, of the Ruggiero winery, where my wine is from. Okay, and you can see the trellises, you can see the layers of soil. Okay, and then this is pretty much his backyard. You can see the rolling hills. All right. So going back, I've missed a whole bunch. So Lisa's tasting the minerality. Tina's getting something from the South Pacific. I'm not really sure what. Marla says she got minerals first when she ate certain foods like pepper jack and raspberries, and maybe the spice blocks the fruity part. That's interesting. Chris spells out my words, and Andy says, yes, they definitely make port. Okay, a moist top fan. Cheers to all of you. All right, so a few more things about the wine I'm drinking. Blend of 70% Alvarinho and 30% Trajadora. The Trajadora lends itself to acidity. It's because this winemaker wanted to make top quality wine. And so he wanted to blend the Alvarinho, which can be a little bit acidic. And so the Trajadora gives a little bit more acidity. It gives freshness to wine and citrus. And because it's a cool area, the grapes can tend to excessive acidity and low alcohol. So they use the blends to balance that. So Trajadora is aromatic, peach, apricot, apple, ripe pear, and orange blossom. All of you picked all of that up, those of you who are drinking this, so kudos to you. And then Alvarinho gives you the aroma and texture. It's juicy and it's very luxurious, okay? The minerality comes from the region, and that's where the salinity comes from too, so it's in the soil itself. I was listening to the winemaker talk, or not the winemaker, the person the importer, and she was saying Alvarinho is a shy grape. If you overwork it to bring out the aroma, it can be too much. It can be too overpowering. So what they do in making this wine, and this is kind of a cool thing, okay? So we're talking about winemaking. They bring the grapes in, they pick them high up, they bring them down, they bring them to press, they press them, they put them usually into stainless steel, and they ferment them. With this wine, because he wanted it to be, to have more substance and more quality and have a bigger mouthfeel than a typical Alvarinho, he rested it on its lees. So what that means is that while it's fermenting in its original fermentation, what happens is it sits on there, so the yeast is in the wine, and it's converting into alcohol. And as the yeast dies, it drops to the bottom. And also some of the pieces of seeds and things like that they haven't taken out. So the lees drop to the bottom as that happens. And so when they're making Alvarinho, a lot of winemakers have started, instead of making a light, crispy, less expensive one, they want a more significant one that will age. And so what they're doing is they let it rest on the lees. So one winemaker, one of the top in the area, rests his wine on the lees for over a year. But he doesn't stir it. Okay, so there's a thing called batonnage, and what that is stirring the lees through, and that increases the texture, and that's what this winemaker does. He stirs the lees, batonnage. And what that does is it brings out the aroma, and it softens it out. Okay, so it's a French term, batonnage. And it's to extract flavor and texture. Okay, and the more, now I don't taste this in this wine, but if those of you who have ones that aren't light and fruity and bubbly, if it's been on the lees, you may get peanut skin and almond. You might get that kind of texture and taste and feel on it. Okay, so it gives a rounded soapstone minerality to it. Subtle fruit of notes, subtle fruits of citrus and white melon. All right, and it's only, and you can age it 15 years. Quite honestly, this one can be aged 15 years, and it's a really really good price. A lot of the Portugal wines are a very good price. A lot of the Alvarinhos are a really good price. Okay, and alcohol is 11.5%. So Lisa's seeing small bubbles forming on her glass. What's up with that? So the small bubbles, Lisa, that might be just because you didn't clean the glass that well. It actually probably is an interaction, and some of the wine can stick to the glass. Okay. Marla said the best food this wine paired with was guacamole. That's interesting. And they do say like fruit salsas will be really good with it. And Marla's is from the Vino Verde as well. So it's a new one. And the reason I picked it was summer wine, a new, different kind of summer wine. Um, Andy says you'd use a shy grape in a blush wine. Very cute. Cheers to you. Don't show yourself out. That was pretty funny. Peanut skin and moist peanut. Definitely top fan activity. Cheers. All right. You're welcome. All right. So food pairings with my wine, white meats, pasta dishes, grilled seafood, shellfish, and fish in general. So if you're having an Alvarinho and you're trying to figure out what you want to pair with it, I would always say grilled seafood is fantastic. And we'll talk more about this, but in Portugal, they have a salted cod that is a typical dish that goes fantastic with wine. All right, with Albarinho. So one of the questions that we were asked from the beginning, and I'll tell you one of my top fans yesterday, Chris Westberg, asked, aren't Vino Verdes, aren't they bubbly? Don't they have effervescence? And the answer is yes, they do have effervescence, and that's how they became known. So they were, Vino Verde is a region in Portugal where this wine is made, and a lot of Alvarinho is grown, but there are actually 6 different varietals that will make up Vino Verde, and a lot of it, like I was looking up the one Marla has, it's a blend, and they don't say what varietals, they don't say what the blend is. As long as it's grown in Vino Verde and it's white, it's a light, crisp wine, okay? So it's not a great variety, it's an area, Vino Verde, known for its super value, whites, reds, and rosés. They can be made, usually they use local varietals like Luero, Arinto, Trajadura, Avesso, Azal, and then Alvarinho. And the name Vino Verde means green wine, but translates as young wine. And it's usually released 3 to 6 months after the grapes are harvested. The slight effervescence of the wine came from malolactic, so a secondary fermentation that was happening in the bottle. And so typically that's considered a wine fault. If your wine goes through a secondary fermentation in the bottle and you have effervescence, that's a wine fault. However, people liked it so much, right? People liked it so much that it became really big. And in the US, the demand went way, way up. And so they kind of stopped on the malolactic fermentation in the bottle because that's not a solid wine practice, but they now add CO2, they add carbonation after, okay? So when you say, is Alvarinho, or is Vino Verde a fine wine, I've seen it described as soda, as wine soda almost. It's nice, it's light, it's crisp, but if there's too much carbonation, it's not great, and it's not made in the traditional way. So there are different levels of Vino Verde. Most of the producers, especially the big commercial ones, will add a slight sparkle by artificial carbonation. Okay. Keith, I think Facebook is glitching. I don't know if the girls are streaming.
No, it didn't. Check.
All right. All right, so Marla goes back to the sea stone, tiny bubbles, effervescence. Lori Bailey had the effervescence as well. And ours didn't have, Leanne's an Uber fan, kind of like a top fan, cheers. Ours doesn't have that effervescence because he's working to make it a higher level wine. Okay, so a couple fun facts about Alvarinho. On the wine calendar, August 1st is Alvarinho Day. The vines are vigorous, meaning they grow like crazy. So they have to be careful when they're growing Alvarinho to restrain their exuberant growth. The grape yield is low though, and the bunches are small, and the grapes are grippy. They call them pippy, like thick skins, due to the altitude in the region. And that's mostly in Portugal and Spain. Some of the oldest living vines in the world are Alvarinho vines, up to 300 years old. And just for reference, 400 years old is the oldest vine. The varietal, I showed you a picture a few weeks ago. I can't remember the name of it. It's not a normal one. Okay. It's not like a traditional that you would have heard. So Spanish and Portuguese winemakers have always treasured the freshness of Albarino, but they don't oftentimes age in oak. Now producers are starting to experiment with aging in oak because it's actually making a rich oak aged style with brioche and cream-like aromas. So they're playing with this, trying to figure out what is going to make the best ones, the best Albarinos. So it's hard to produce because of, as we talked about, the climate makes it a little difficult because it's a moist, warm area, and so they have to lift the vines up off the ground. Most of them are drank young, most of Alvarinho, but because of the high alcohol, the high acidity, and the phenolic structure from the thick skins, it has incredible potential to age. Hi, Tammy. I didn't see you come in. Welcome. It does really, really well in cool and intermediate climates. So Galicia in Spain is actually where it originates. And we haven't talked about that yet. I haven't heard anybody say Alvarinho Viaxas. I'm going to show you a picture, but they're so close between Portugal and Spain that you'll see why they are so connected in terms of why they're so good. Both areas experience heavy Atlantic storms. But even though they have heavy, wet Atlantic storms, they have over 2,000 hours of really great grape growing degree days. So, and typically, as we said before, so it does really well in sandy granite soils. Usually, Greer asked about the soil, and she didn't tonight, but I am going to say in both areas, sandy and granite. And nectarine, lime, grapefruit, honeysuckle, and sometimes beeswax in some of them. And they're kind of a mid-palate, weighty, mouth-watering acidity with that salinity that we talked about, that trade note salinity and minerality. And sometimes it'll have a bitter note at the end, like a green almond or a citrus pith, which I do think we could smell, not taste. Chris, should we have made moist the other drinking word of the night? All right, so I'm going to just show you a picture because I want you to see my maps, okay? And again, I'll do Facebook first and then Instagram. Okay, this is a picture of Spain and Portugal. All right, this is Spain is the white, Portugal is this strip here, okay? And Galicia is on the Iberian Peninsula, Galicia of Spain. Okay. And that is known for that wet climate from the Atlantic, that moist, warm climate. And so Portugal, as you can see, is just right behind it, just right below it. And actually, Vinho Verde is right up here. So you can see why those are the two prime areas for Albarinho, okay? And here's just another map. And here's Viaxas and Vinho Verde right below. Okay. Let me know if there are any questions. I'm sure you will. You will not hesitate. All right. So we talked a lot about Portugal and Vinho Verde, and I have just a couple more things to share with you. So in Vinho Verde, there are nearly 20,000 different growers in the region. As I said before, people grow right in their backyard. Portugal for a long time was cut off from the rest of the world, really until the 1980s when they joined the European Union. And so they were really connected. They were really what's the word? They stayed local and they grew their grapes locally. You can go, when you're in Portugal, you can see Alvarinho grapes growing up the side of trees and in people's backyards, and they have co-ops, so they make wine from their backyard grapes, and they're making some really good wines. So it's just been in the last 20 years or so that they have been, maybe 30 years, making better and better and better wines. And the other thing that's really cool about Portugal is because they kept themselves localized, they really worked on their indigenous grapes. So they have varietals that, although the Alvarinho you see in Spain and Portugal, they have other ones that you really won't see anywhere else, including some interesting reds. So, so Andy is pointing out the Dutch. Andy, you missed Bordeaux last week, but I never got to say that the Dutch had dredged the river in Bordeaux, and that's where they got a lot of their fantastic soils. And good, Leslie, you are a top fan, and I'm glad that you love the geographical references. I appreciate that. Some people, some people don't enjoy the wine geekness, and I am a total geek about it. I love it. But hopefully it gives you all some reference. So most of the grapes are grown together in tiny plots. So all of the varietals kind of grow together. And that's why they have a mystery on the blends. So they harvest the grapes together, and the blends are often just a mystery. And for a long time too, by the way, the Portuguese did not import their wine. So port, right? Port is obviously from Porto. It's just south of Vinho Verde on the Douro River, and again, moist, kind of coolish climate. But they didn't import their wines; they held on to them. And so, if you do see a red wine from Portugal, you should buy it. Marla actually got one that she's going to try. But some of their best wines, some of their really good wines are coming out. The red wines are really, really interesting. Yeah, Tina says all of her uncles in Portugal make their own wine from their grapes in their backyards. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Very competitive in towns. Yeah, that's a really good frame of reference. And when you visit Portugal, they open their homes to you, much like you think of Italy. For Portugal, it's because they're opening up. The winemakers love to have people visit. So because the weather, let's see, we talked about that. So from Vinho Verde to up to the Iberian Peninsula of Galicia, it's an hour and a half drive. Okay, so I'm just telling you, I mean, that's how you know how close they are. So Alvarinho is Portugal, but really the Albarinho grape, which is the same varietal, is from the Rías Baixas in Spain, that region. And it's beautiful, and they make incredible wines. And same thing, really good prices, really, really good quality. Okay, so in Spain, Albarinho tends to be rounder and softer on your palate. It displays tropical aromas, overall lemony character, and again, high in acidity. It's delightfully refreshing, coastal, white, and as I mentioned, it's on the Iberian Peninsula. Love for its rich stone flavors, the salinity, and the zippy acidity. Those of you who are sitting there and you're thinking, salinity, what? She keeps saying that, and we said it was salt. How do you taste that? If you take a little bit of salt and kind of just like a tequila shot, and try a little bit of it, and then taste the wine, you may be able to pull it out. Okay, but it's kind of getting used to it. It's more of it's almost like a mouthfeel too to it. Okay, and so Marla is saying the Alentejano. Okay, I can't pronounce it, but Alentejano is a red varietal. Okay, so there's a lot of rain in Rías Baixas. It's higher elevation, high acid, incredible ripeness. The acid in those wines make you salivate. It makes you want to have more, whether it's food or wine. So you try it and you want to have more, which is similar to this wine. And I did a wine tasting once with, it was an Irish producer in making Albarinho in Spain, and it was from the Rías Baixas, and it was unbelievable. And I've seen it at Total Wine a few times. Really, really, really good. They'll have incredible floral, great white citrus, orange blossom, orange peel, stone fruit. And Leslie says, I must like the pack bottle because there's only a couple of glasses left in the bottle. I blame Tina for trying to be a top fan. All right, so it's fresher and lighter from Spain, and it's more textured from Portugal. All right, that's kind of the basic difference. So I hope that was clear. The Vinho Verde and Albarinho are different. Albarinho is a varietal, and oftentimes it's in kind of a higher level wine. So there's from Portugal, from Vinho Verde region, you can find Albarinho or Vinho Albarinho, and from Spain, it would be Alvarinho, sorry. And from Spain, it would be Albarinho. But a Vinho Verde can be a blend of all those different grapes that I mentioned, made from that region and known to have that effervescence. Okay, let me know if that's not clear. And just because I know you guys often ask, so the soils of the Rias Biaxas, there's 5 subregions in that area, and it's dominated by granite and in some place schist. And because I knew Lisa Gilbert would ask, what is schist? It's mudstone and shale. All right, so there are large rivers and tributaries that have left alluvial and colluvial deposits, which are a combination of clay, silt, sand, and gravel. So there's a limited amount of organic material, which, as we've talked about, adds flavor and components to the wine the deeper the vines go. And there's also an extremely high level of minerality in the soil. Okay. All right. So food pairings with Alvarinho and Albarinho would be very similar, noting that the regions are so close together along the Atlantic Ocean. So what would you serve with that? I said fish, white fish and meats, leafy green herbs, fish tacos, lighter meats like fish and seafood, ceviche, seafood risotto, grilled or fried fish tacos, oysters, mussels, and clams, even a Caesar salad. For soft cheeses, maybe like a burrata or a semi-hard cheese like manchego, Gouda, or feta because it's salty. So those are some of the different things that I would pair with it. Beyond sausage, yeah, I'm not sure that I was. Andy, is Beyond sausage really sausage, or is it like tofu sausage? All right. While he's answering that, other regions where Albarino is grown or made, as I mentioned, California. So what we're seeing in the U.S. with Albarino is they're doing really high alcohol Albarinos, 14 and a half, 14 and a half. They're raising the alcohol level, and they're very, very fruit driven because it's warmer. And so they're experimenting, as I said, all around the world with wine, but that's what you're seeing in the United States. In Oregon and Washington as well, same thing, higher alcohol, higher fruit. Right, Tina, I think that's Tina says plant-based sausage, Chris says soy sausage. If there's salt in it, it would probably go together. Oh, and pea protein and other natural ingredients. All right, it would go together. Uruguay is making some good wine from Alvarinho. So they're the 4th biggest producer, and I mentioned them before, but in South America. And so if you find a Uruguayan Alvarinho, I would buy it. That's another really good deal, really good price point. And then, as I mentioned, Australia as well. In Australia, if it is Alvarinho, tends to have citrus and floral character, but can also have exotic fruits. All right. So let's see. Portugal is known for port, as we know, and your wine could be rated DOC or IG. DOC would be linked to a particular region, place, or a traditional denomination with specific characteristics and a specific terroir, where IG or IGP is wines from a specific region. In Rias Biaxas in Spain, that is much more highly regulated of an area. And so the quality is higher. They're held to a higher standard in order to get approved. So there's definitely standard in terms of the way that you grow and create your wines. And then there's a standard in terms of tasting, so that you have to go in front of a tasting committee or council and have it approved. All right. So I have lots of history about Portugal, but I thought maybe we could call out some, because I've said it's a great food tasting wine, a food pairing wine. I'd love for you to call out what you're trying. So we have the breadfruit and we have the Beyond sausage. Did anybody have, I don't think, shrimp. Yes, I'm going to try my shrimp, as Keith reminded me. I made garlic shrimp beforehand just to try it. So I'm wondering, I have not eaten yet. So if you guys can share with us some of your really good food pairings. I know Marla called some out before, but if you want to share them again. Okay, so how do I know whether or not my shrimp is going with my my wine? So to taste it, the wine itself I can taste the stainless steel and that minerality. I definitely get that minerality. When I tasted my shrimp, I actually cooked them in butter. I wish I cooked them in on the grill, but I didn't have time. And so the butter is interfering with some of the stone fruit that I want to pull out, and I'm getting more citrus rind. So does that go together? It's not a great pairing. I can eat them together and it's okay, but I don't walk away feeling like, wow, that wine and that food was better together. Okay. So Lisa asks, is it considered a summer or warm weather wine? Would you drink it in Wyndham, New Hampshire in February if you were eating seafood? So that's a great question. Lisa, you ought to be a top fan. Cheers to you. So would I drink it? So it is in general. Vino Verde is definitely a summer wine. Albarinho is, like we'd say a summer night because it's bigger. It's a bigger mouthfeel. There's a little bit more alcohol and there's more to it. And so if in February I was doing grilled seafood, what is the Italian feast with all the seafood? I would do an Alvarinho, absolutely. Particularly one that had either been on the lees, right, the batonnage that we talked about, which was stirred on the lees, or if it sat on the lees, or oaked. If it were oaked, definitely, okay, because that's going to give it an extra dimension. Good question. All right, so Leanne says 100 plus countries. Portugal is one of his favorites. Interesting, and I wonder if Portugal is one of his favorites because there's still a lot of tradition there. But I'd be curious to find out why it's one of his favorites. It's a place I've never been. Spain and Portugal I haven't been to, but they're on my list. Lisa says dry salami and shrimp cocktail. Did they go well, Lisa? That's my question. So I have some other pieces of food to taste with it. And again, I want to emphasize, how do you know when a food goes well with a wine? When together, the two of them together go better or are better as a whole than separately. Okay. So Tina is a moist top fan and Chardonnay. Okay, Tina, that was a hard sentence. I'm going to give you a cheers for that. Chris, tell us about it. Chris has been to Portugal. Has anybody else been to Portugal? And tell us what were your impressions. Marla says guacamole, fish tacos. Marla, what is Veracruzano? That's interesting. Okay. Andy's been keeping an eye out. So Chris, your dad tastes tungsten. You're going to have to tell me what tungsten is. What does tungsten taste like, Chris? I would love to know. And I'm wondering if that's that minerality. Thank you, Mr. Westberg. Greer has garlic shrimp, and I'm wondering, Greer, how your garlic shrimp is with the wine, because mine wasn't as good. Leslie has classic stuff, bread, stick, salami, prosciutto, and Vermont cheddar. Leslie, what did you like with it? What did you like and what didn't you like? Lisa says humbled. Marla wants to know more about the alcohol content. Hers was 11%, and most of the Vino Verdes were actually at 9%. So again, the less expensive wines in this area are going to have less alcohol too, similar to when we talked about Bordeaux last week. Very similar. Okay, so Marla says the options at the store, most of them were 9%. So yeah, overall, yes. So white wines are going to have a lower percent alcohol. The ones that I sell, because they're handcrafted in a higher level, they're going to show a little bit more alcohol, though this one's still only 11.5%. Tungsten or wolfram is a chemical element, okay? But what is it? It's mineral. That is perfect. So Mr. Westberg, that is perfect. Heavy stone, that's that minerality you're getting. Excellent. Oh, Tina Johnson, I haven't seen you here. Oh, and you were just there in February, I remember. Can you tell us one thing you loved about it, or is it just too many? All right, so Leanne says rhubarb. I actually saw someone pairing this wine with shrimp, asparagus, rhubarb, and grapefruit. No, it wasn't shrimp, it was scallops in a skillet. And so it's interesting that you call that out, Leanne, because I would not have thought to add rhubarb, but it was a sweet, kind of savory seafood that went really well with it. Sweet, savory seafood. So Lisa says the salami was better than the shrimp cocktail because of the cocktail sauce. Yes, the acid from the cocktail sauce would pose some issues. Tina's been to Portugal, other Tina, but only for 19 hours. Great seafood, really great seafood there for 10 minutes. Yeah, but Lisbon, right. So Lisbon is old. They've been rebuilding it, and they're actually starting to come out with some interesting wines as well. One of them actually my distributor sells, and I may use it. called Jackpot. It's a red, and it sounds really, really good. But so Lisbon is like a bunch of kind of the new generation is rebuilding and starting to make wine there. So it's kind of interesting. Marla shares corn tacos. Oh, that's so interesting. Marla, is that you made that tonight? That sounds fantastic. She had tacos Veracruzano. Sounds phenomenal. Leslie says the cheddar went well with it, and you keep going back to it. I'm going to have to try it together. Oh, Marla didn't make them. Marla, you should have just said you made them. It was takeout. Sounds amazing. Leanne had shrimp scampi, just okay. And the guacamole went really well. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of that sweeter, it's a fruit, right? It's kind of that sweeter taste to it. Well, avocado is a fruit. And so it would be interesting to see, like, to make a grapefruit salad or, a mango salsa or nectarine salsa. That would probably go really well with it. Yeah, interesting. So Tina says the food and wine are amazing. It's still so inexpensive, and the small villages make you feel like you've stepped back in time. Beautiful description, Tina Johnson. And by the way, anybody who likes to read travel blogs, Tina has a fantastic travel blog. So if you have a chance, and Tina, feel free to share your URL. But that's interesting, and that's a great call out with these Portuguese wines. They're coming out with they're small growers, small producers making these outstanding priced wines. And so that's, very interesting. Leanne says it's the lime and salt hit. Yeah, interesting. So instead on the guacamole, not the fruit necessarily, but the wine and the salt together. So I'm pretty impressed with all of these comments. You guys have been, what a great job. You've learned so much, and you know so much about wine. It's pretty cool. If we look at the first week until now, it's pretty impressive. So Chris says he was in the Algarve region of Portugal and in Lisbon, but mainly drank Caprinas. Yes, Caprinas are incredible, a fantastic drink. I tried to make them once, but they're high alcohol. And so I can see, Chris, I might be drinking some of the same, but I definitely would be doing other wine as well, wine and Caparinas. So thank you, Leanne. Oh, good. Awesome. So Tina posted her link, mytravelingkids.com. So I just want to point out, those of you who are really enjoying the wine tastings, and of course I mentioned at Artisan Wine Connection or artisanwinetasting.com that I have the wine packs that go with each week, but also my wine cards. I just posted a bunch of videos on how to play, and there are like 13 different versions of my wine game. But this is a perfect example to give. If you taste the wine and then you flip the cards and you think, okay, did I taste melon? Did I get almond? And so there's lots of different ways. It's on my website, my Facebook page, if you are interested. And definitely top fan comments. So that's a final cheers from Leanne. Thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank all of you, my top fans, those of you who can step in every once in a while, those of you who are week to week, my husband, those of you who are who is not a top fan, but I know that everybody has a lot of things to do in their lives, a lot going on, and I so appreciate that each week you tune in and spend an hour with us. So thank you so much, and please consider me your personal wine consultant, wine coach, wine guide, whatever you want to call it. Anytime you want to message me to ask me any question about wine, it is my absolute pleasure, and I'm so thankful to have all of you in my life. So thank you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week for, I can't remember the topic, but I'll post it. All right, take care. Thanks.
Nice. Good job.